Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Sooner Legends Podcast. As you can tell, I've got the famous Oni Kuno with me, and I've got a couple other guests who's kind of running behind. We're going to be talking a little bit of recruiting, a little bit of Demarco Murray, a little bit of the spring game preview, and what else comes to our rabbit-ass mind.
Hey, we're previewing the spring game already. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're a month out from that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, I want to welcome you. I'm Mike the Legend. This is my first live stream. And I was informed by my friend Sean that the Baylor and OU softball game is going on right now. So
it is just about underway. So first pitch
so
happen. So
this thing will probably tank the high heaven.
Well, the good thing about stuff like this, you can always go back and watch it. But it's So I'll do you a favor if you when the thing is over, if you want to post just tweet it out on your thing, and I'll retweet it and I'll say, hey, I was on a thing. I'll throw you some.
I appreciate it, Sean. Well, I'm gonna jump in here and give some people a shout out. Bishop Frank from Hall of Fame Sports Media, welcome. Chicken 1515, my partner in crime, and Jimmy Satterfield, good to have you. Big salute to you, Bishop. So, Sean, I'm going to touch very, very briefly on this, and then we'll there's Trap House booming. Love you, Trap. I never got to say my little spill on the recruiting class from last year, which included, and I'm just going to talk about the defensive line class, and I'm going to explain to you what was going through my mind, and then you can tell me if I was drinking my own bathwater or if I'm on point. So when we finally got Stoney, Danny Okoye, Nigel Smith II, and Jaden Jackson. Now, I don't know if you've known me long enough to know that I've been a Sooner fan since 1971.
That's a good year. That's a good year to start.
Yeah. And, in the 53 years I've been a fan of OU football, I've seen the best of the best in recruiting, and I've seen the worst of the worst. Mm-hmm. So when we got these recruits ruled in, the first thing that came to my mind was I haven't seen a defensive line recruiting class in this one bundle like we did with these guys I just spoke of. I hadn't seen that since we recruited Leroy and Dewey.
I knew you were going to go there. I was like, where is he? He's not going where I think he's going. He's like,
Leroy and Dewey Selman and Jimbo Elrod. I hadn't seen that because if you remember,
people forget Jimbo was on that line, and God bless the late Jimbo Elrod. But he would he would always say, "He's like, I love playing. Everyone tried to block those guys, and I get to make plays and be all American." So,
but was I drinking my own bathwater thinking that?
That's just such a. You got to remember, those three gentlemen you mentioned have statues on the campus now.
Yeah,
and rightfully so. It's just, man, it's hard to. If they could come even close to that, we're not just on the right track. Hell, we might win the SEC in a year or two.
Yeah.
But I can't go there yet. If we had really hit a home run and gotten in Winari and the kid who went to LSU, McKinley and everything, maybe I'd be on board with that. But 5 stars bust. It's I'm not predicting that, but you can. This program, as of late, has not had the greatest luck with 5 stars. Like, the hit rate is very low, and even the ones that do hit didn't stick around for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think it's like the more you get, obviously, the better the chance 1 or 2 of them but potentially will be playmakers. I think Danny Okoye is the one who's going to potentially make the biggest impact right away.
I think so too.
I mean, David Stone's going to be in the rotation. Jane Jackson will be in the rotation because Jane Jackson's is a quarter pounder with cheese away from being 300 pounds. So now weight is not the end all be all, but you want your interior guys to be as big as they can be and have that flexibility. So, but yeah, the D line's exciting, and lot of people had a lot of OU fans had boo-boo faces on when they didn't get Williams Winery and McKinley. And I get it. It's like the Winery stuff was weird because there's recruiting report conflicts, and there was a fight between the recruiting websites. I'm like, oh god! If this is the worst thing that happens to us this year, we'll have a great year. But
yeah.
It's like it's a wait and see. I know it's like I should have the big opinion that yes, I agree they're going to be the McComber opinion, but those guys are going to take. I think so. Those guys are going to take a year to be really, really good if they live up to their potential.
Yeah.
Like David Stone is going to play. Jaden Jackson is going to play. Yeah. Nigel Smith, we'll see where. But like the good news is they're all on campus now. Yeah. They are, they're in spring ball and they get back to work on Monday because spring break is finally ending. And I always love that we're going to practice a week, take a week off, and a lot of the guys went down to. Did they go down? Did they go down to Haiti or someplace? They did one of the Soul Mission trips, so they've been posting that on social media as of late. So a lot of the guys went down for that. Someone's going to correct me on that, I'm sure, but I just forgot where they went to. But yeah, they'll get back to work. And my favorite thing about spring practice reports is that I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but whenever you here's the spring practice tidbits, like it's weak. It's like 2 practices. Like, I could go back through the past 20 years and hear, so-and-so had a great practice today. Okay, can he have 12 great practices? Can he have 15? Exactly. I need to see, like, he's doing it every day. Okay, if he's doing it every day, I'll start to believe you. But, like, Trey McTwire had a good practice once, and we know how he turned out at wide receiver. So I can just pull a random name. Are you sure remember that great catch he made? That clip everyone showed on Twitter? It's like, yeah, he didn't do anything. He didn't do it in a real game when it mattered. So
exactly,
I got excited too. I'm not saying everyone was wrong to be excited, but it's just you gotta do it consistently if you like. So it's just one of those things. So I tend to like. Remember what they said in the spring practice? It's like breathe. The young D linemen sounds like they're doing well early, but if they do it consistently, I guarantee you they'll get in the rotation. They'll make some noise.
Right.
This is the most excited I've been for a football season. I feel like I say that every year at this point, but for real, this is the year. It's like you go to the SEC and you have some new toys to play with, and you have a tough but fun schedule. And right. I'm just looking forward to seeing what we look like.
Yeah, I'm excited myself, and I tell you one room I'm kind of not concerned about, but it's on my mind, like probably everybody else, is the O-line. What's your thoughts, Sean?
It's not ideal to go into the SEC when you're replacing pretty much the entire O-line to an extent, but
yeah.
We also live in a transfer portal world where you can, if this was 2006, I'd say we have no shot to do anything. It would be like a 2009 type of year. But, I've been very consistent. I think the interior offensive line has a chance to be really good. There's a lot of talent there. It's just the tackle spots, which tend to be one of the more important spots. I think Sexton's get one of those spots. The Brown kid transferred in from Michigan State. It sounds like he might be the front runner for one of those spots. Regardless of how spring turns out, we're gonna have to hit the portal one more time after spring ball. We're just gonna have to get you never know. Caden Proctor was at Iowa, not anymore. He went back to Bama. He was there for a cup of coffee and came on back.
Well, that's a weird situation, right there.
I mean, I'm just glad I'm on the outside of that one, not a victim of it, because I'd be like, I understand Iowa fans being mad. Don't share those feelings on social media because you come off as creepy and weird. I get, I know what you're feeling. I understand. But save some of those deep-seated hatred comments for like the privacy of your own home.
Agreed.
I am not above criticizing a high school kid or college player when I feel it's valid. I tend, if 99% of the time, it's like the kid just made a decision. He went with his gut. I don't have personal grudge. The only time I get issues with teenagers making decisions is when they openly, blatantly lie and they get caught, that's where I have an issue. Like the Tristan Lees of the world, where it wasn't just
Right.
he had signed a letter of intent with Clemson early, but didn't tell any of the other schools that he was signed somewhere, because schools were technically making violations all over the roadmap with him, thinking he was still available. That's where I have an issue, where it's like you're intentional not getting schools in trouble for recruiting you when they legally can't. That's where I take issue with it. Those type of things. Other than that, it's like kid makes a decision, he makes a decision. So,
well, Sean, Ty is going to, from Around the Table Sports is in. I'm going to bring him in. And hello, Ty.
What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much. Me and Sean sitting here ranting it up.
Chopping it up as always.
How was the DFW traffic, brother?
Hellacious.
First of all, you actually made it out of DFW traffic. That is to be commended.
Right? I mean, it was a battle royale out there.
Yeah. You must have been on. Was you on? Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, I would say this is why I either take the Dart, an Uber, a cab, whatever, a rental car, whatever it may be.
You're a far smarter man than I. Jeez, the traffic's got me all tongue-tied.
So Ty, and Sean kind of.
I was just saying the worst traffic is leaving an OU Texas game.
Oh yeah.
I've had a few of those drives with my dad in his truck, and it's like, listen to Sports Animal. We lost this one. I don't know if I want to listen to Traber go off.
Oh my God.
Back when the Sports Animal was something people actually listened to.
Well, Ty,
Al, I said it before, and I'll say it again. This program is not where it needs to be. 5 years ago, this was an elite program. But they can't get first downs against the Texas team. Al, you're not listening, Al. It's like, Al, I don't speak your Hobbit language. You need to slow down. Like that's basically what Listen to the Sports Animal was. And I did this bit with my ex podcast partner Joe Bettner, where those guys could argue about anything. It's like, Al, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Oklahoma's not elite. You go to the concession stands at Gaylord Family, and they don't serve Dr. Pepper there. What are you talking about? Oklahoma's going to serve the greatest concession stands. The elite concession stands. Al, you're not listening. How could you have elite concession stands if you don't serve Dr. Pepper?
This is a fair question.
Yeah. It is a fair question. So I think they've changed that since then. I have no idea if they sell Dr. Pepper there. I know they got Billy Sims barbecue. So yeah, I have that is my lame attempt to imitate the total dominance hour right there.
You didn't throw in the yard bird or the spineless gut amoeba.
No, I didn't go there. I've been for a side note, this is not interesting to anyone, but the past week I've been literally doing quote unquote spring cleaning of my computer with all the files. I have so many podcasts that I've saved over the years. And when you download podcasts or clips from the radio shows from the Sports Animal, they're not labeled. They're just random numbers. So I'm like, what the hell are these podcasts? And I'm like, oh my God, I have like 15,000 like WWLS like podcasts, and half of them are Traber yelling about or screaming about like players who were former Sonic players going to OKC and being mad. It's just like, oh God. And I was like, why did I keep half this crap? It was fun. It was a trip down memory lane. Went down and heard that. So anyway, I totally derailed what you were trying to do here. So my apologies.
Oh, you're fine, Sean. Ty, me and Sean touched briefly on it. Give us your thoughts on, is it Caden Proctor, Sean? That went to Iowa. Give us your thoughts on that, Ty. You're the Bama guy of the group.
Yeah, listen, I didn't have that on my bingo card, right? Like I absolutely did not have that on my bingo card. But it's a little bit ironic, right? When the timing of it, considering Nick Saban was just on Capitol Hill lobbying to try and get some changes and some structure to college football, right? And I mean, listen, this is something I've been saying forever, right? And I came from the legal world into this. College football's cooked. College football's been cooked, right? Like, quite simply put, it's absolutely cooked. NCAA versus Alston comes down, right? 10 days later, and this is after Justice Kavanaugh paints the target on the NCAA's back saying your antitrust structure is inherently illegal. You cannot operate under like not paying your workers a fair wage under the theory that you don't have to pay your workers a fair wage.
You know you're bad when everyone on the Supreme Court is against you.
When it's unanimous, that's when you know, like, oh, we're cooked. And so I know people like are up in arms about what Nick Saban was saying, but here's the truth, whether you like it or not. Something's got to happen, because where we're currently going, the NCAA is so cooked, they're asking Congress to help because they know if we keep going down this road, they're done.
Well, the NCAA would be done, is what you're saying.
The NCAA as a governing body is done.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think they were doomed. Like the moment that states made NIL legal, and they had to, with a gun to their head, they were forced to do it because. Well,
that was actually on the NCAA, and let me explain.
Oh, right? No, it was on the NCAA, and like my quick 2 cents on that is.
Yeah, go ahead. Ty.
The I don't know what the phrasing is, but the environment or the climate was ready for this like a decade prior. It's like, look, you need to do this now. You need to like ease people into it now. So like, that's why all this chaos is happening, because everyone's like, all this is changing so quickly. Why is all the for everything, whether it's conference realignment, players get paid, because this is what happens when you just like, there's this, I got this headache that's on one side of my head and it pulsates and you don't get it checked out by a doctor. At some point, something's going to burst in there and you're in big trouble. And that's kind of what happened to the NCAA. And call me crazy, Ty. I want your opinion because you're a legal guy. The NCAA still has the tax-free status that everyone loves to enjoy. That's like the one thing they got. If like the Big Ten and the SEC figured out to create, Super Football League 2025 or whatever, and they find a way to, get backroom deals to make that tax-free, they're screwed.
They're done.
That's the only thing that's holding the NCAA is like, we got the tax-free status, so because nobody likes to pay taxes, especially rich people.
100%. And when I say like I put all of this on the NCAA, I echo everything you say, but what I would add in is that after NCAA versus Alston, it was 10 days later. That's when NIL came down. So to get the Supreme Court off their back, they were like, all right, guys, screw it. Full send. Here's NIL. It was done with no thought. States like Alabama, states like Florida, just to name two, were proactive in their NIL legislation. They had actually started legislating how to go about NIL because they knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. The problem is after NCAA versus Alston, that 10-day period, the NCAA says, here it is. What Alabama, what Florida, and what several other states had passed was far more restrictive than what the NCAA had allowed. That's why Texas, and like, listen, I'm not mad at the Longhorns. If they're going to give
I'll be mad at the Longhorns.
Fair play, right? And just as you should be, right? As
I don't know what reason. I'll take any reason to be mad.
Listen here, brother. I'm perpetually mad at Auburn. So you don't have to explain it to me, my man, right? Like I get it. And Auburn, Bama, Texas, OU, we're talking massive rivalries here, and I grew up on the Red River, Sean. I grew up in Gainesville, Texas. So yeah, I have a very in-depth understanding of the Red River shootout. The NCAA, though, we've gotten to a point.
Go ahead, Ty.
Go ahead. Oh, no, we've just gotten to a point where they can't correct anything. Everybody's wondering, why is all this happening? Why isn't the NCAA doing anything? Well, it's because as we currently sit here and talk, there are 4 court cases I'm tracking coming down the docket in 2025. 2 of which you definitely need to know. One of them is House. The other one is Johnson, both attacking the NCAA antitrust structure, one of which is talking about back pay. I mean, we are in wild territory right now. And Sean, as you pointed out, if the Supreme Court went unanimous on that, and lest we forget, Justice Kavanaugh and them, they weren't there to specifically talk about the antitrust structure that day. He took a step back because some legal experts have argued that he was too broad in his decision, in his concurring opinion, because he took a step back, put the gun out and said, oh no, I'm aiming at your entire structure. You're illegal. You can't do this. That to me was a signal, a plea. Please sue them. We want to take them out. Like, that's why the NCAA, they can't do anything. They're handcuffed because they're going to end up back in court and they are going to lose. So that's why they're lobbying Congress. They have nowhere else to go.
Yeah,
and good luck getting Congress bailing you out.
To do anything.
This is far more than an event that happened when I was 16 years old in 1981. And if y'all remember when Andy Coates and Clyde Muchmore represented the University of Oklahoma in Georgia and sued the NCAA for what you're talking about, the antitrust law, and we got it in 1984. But this what's going on now makes this look like a little breath mint, so to speak. I mean.
And here's the thing, answering the Caden Proctor thing directly, it benefits my team, but at the same time, it's not good for college football, right? Like simultaneously, two things can be true where I don't mind if a coach leaves. I'm not one of the Alabama fans that's like, oh, they need to fix that 30-day window. Well, no, if coaches can leave, I do feel like that players need to have that sovereignty as well, right? Like that only seems fair. But stuff like not having a one-time transfer rule, because you remember the West Virginia judge put a temporary injunction on it for 14 days, and the NCAA said, we're not going to fight that because God knows we'll get blasted. We're in a really weird place. It's not great for college football.
The whole thing with that is we obviously had like an issue with we had the whole Caden Green fiasco, and it's not like Caden Green wasn't playing or wasn't getting his opportunity. The dude was like on the O-line in that final drive against Texas and started the rest of the year. So it wasn't
set to be a monster for this season for y'all.
Yes. And so it's like that was that was good. That was one of those like sneaky little, but it's like, okay, Missouri's going to play this game. And I look forward to playing Missouri on the reg and beating them into powder once again and reminding them who's in charge. But in all seriousness, I'm all for player movement at this point. Does it need to be looked at again? Or like, I don't know how you do it because like the toothpaste is out of the tube. But if you try to put any restrictions, it's going to, like you said, we're going to be like, but thankfully the SEC is smart. It says, all right, if you're going to transfer within the SEC, if you're at an SEC school and you're transferring, you ain't going to another SEC school. Like apparently
only in the spring window.
Only in the spring window. So at least they have that going for them.
True.
So it's the whole player movement thing. I said, like, you know, years ago, it's like it used to be if you transferred, you have to sit out a year, and then you get to play. It's like, all right, so. But now it's like, okay, it's a double-edged sword. They can transfer anytime they want and be eligible right away. It's like, that's great. My team's been very beneficial to guys transferring and playing right away. But again, it works both ways. So I think the one
buddy of mine was talking up. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say the one thing that it's turning into is that, hey, there's a really good running back at Bowling Green. You see him play last year? Let's get him to Ohio State right away. So we can, like, that's exactly what it's turning into. The days of having stars at mid-majors is coming to an end. So you're never going to have a star player stay at a mid-major. Like, I know, like, TCU is like Big 12 now, but back in the day when TCU was a mid-major, you had LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson ain't staying at TCU in the current climate that we're in right now. He's going to Texas. He's going to Oklahoma. He's going somewhere, you know, bigger and badder. So now I'm all for super conferences and the big and the bad having their own playground because I'm an elite snob when it comes to college football. I love the blue bloods. I love the helmet games. So I'm all in favor of like making the sport make a little more sense because my favorite argument for college football purists, like, but what makes the sport great is that it doesn't make sense. Like, they don't say that specifically, but when you actually hear them talk about it,
yeah,
the gist of it is, what's what makes college football great? It doesn't make sense. No, I've hated that most of my life. Like, I remember once asking my dad, how does winning a championship work? And when my dad had to take more than 2 sentences to explain it to me, I'm like, why does a man in Missouri get to decide in a newspaper, like, if Oklahoma is the best team? What? Why does a coach from Los Angeles have a say? Huh? That's basically what it was. And at some point you got used to it. But, any good lawyer will tell you, like, well, that's the way we've always been doing it. That's not going to, stand up in court.
Awful argument, by the way. Awful argument. Yeah, we've always done it that way. Now, Mike, I don't want to. I know you were about to say something, but I did want to point out one thing, right?
No, you're fine.
To agree with Sean here when he says stars at mid majors. I think one of the biggest lies we were sold about the transfer portal and NIL is that, this is going to equalize college football. And in some ways it can, but make no mistake about this. The rich will get richer. To Sean's point, if you're a blue blood, if you're Oklahoma, if you're Texas, if you're Bama, if you're not even necessarily just the blue bloods, if you're one of these brands that's like one of these 10 or so brands in college football that just kind of stand on their own, you get to point at a Louisiana and you get their best player. Louisiana does not get to point at Alabama's roster and get Jalen Milroe. But a few years ago, Nick Saban pointed at Trey Amos, and here he comes to Bama. He pointed at Georgia Tech at Jahmyr Gibbs. He comes to Bama. Right? It's not going to be the reverse. And yes, players will transfer out. It's much more difficult to hoard talent. But is that really causing the effects that we thought it would? At the end of the day, Georgia is still there. Bama is still competing. Like, all these teams that were supposed to just fall off, they're still there. And I get it. We can say Bama hasn't won a national championship since 2020. I mean, they've been in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So the fall off, it's anyway. A fall off, like a very small one. I love that point you had, Sean, and I don't know if you heard it, but I think
I had to go kill another human being real quick. So
no doubt about it, right? I get that. That makes sense. But
not really, FBI.
And by human being, we meant a bottle of water.
Yeah, let's go with that.
No, I was just saying that the point you made about stars mid majors, I love that, because I think one of the bigger lies we were sold is that this is going to equalize college football. If you're one of these top 10 brands like Bama or OU, they can point at Louisiana and get their best player. Nick Saban pointed at Georgia Tech and got Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, you know how hard it is to go to Louisiana and get their best player? We tried that last year. It didn't work.
I mean, for Bama, it's a dime a dozen, right? Like, they pointed at Trey Amos, the best player on Louisiana's roster a few years ago, and he's at Bama. Nick Saban points at Jahmyr Gibbs. He's at Bama. Georgia Tech can't point at Jalen Milroe and then Jalen Milroe be there. But Bama can point at any of these lower schools, and they're going to get the best player on that team just by going, come on. It didn't equalize in the manner they thought.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I feel bad for fans of mid majors to an extent, but I worked at a radio station down here with a bunch of UCF guys, and to them, they're in the Big 12 now, and there's a feeling they're not a mid major, but still below the power schools at this point. They've been trying to get it. They were desperate to get into the Big 12 back in 2016. I'm like, guys, it's not going to back then. I said, guys, I don't think it's going to happen. David Bourne doesn't want it to happen. He's trying to get teams, but there's certain schools that don't want that. And I don't know what to tell you, because you need, I made guys, maybe you need to form your own division and have your own, and they're, no, we can't do that. Guys, have your own playoff. No, we can't do that. Because they like the idea that they were going up in the world. And I'm sure in some crazy person's idea, they want to have relegation like in European soccer. Can you imagine if Notre Dame went 11-12 one year for whatever reason, had to get relegated.
I'm not opposed if Auburn like really stinks to kick them out the SEC. Let's not just
Yeah, but you wouldn't play them because you're not going to play a relegated team at that point. You're going to play someone else.
That's Auburn's fault. That's
but you're going to miss playing them, and
you're right. You're 100% right.
Listen, it's like people get mad. It's like you're going to miss playing Bedlam, and you know what my secret nickname for Bedlam is? It's Great Value Iron Bowl. Bedlam is basically great value Iron Bowl. You have a Crimson team that has a ton of national championships and all the history, and then you got an Orange team that had a really legendary running back in the 80s who drove you nuts. They had Barry Sanders, they had Bo Jackson. So it's like it's basically the same thing. It's Great Value Iron Bowl.
That's fair.
So like if Bedlam's gone, like don't worry. If you want Bedlam, just watch the Iron Bowl. It's the same thing.
I have to pay my electric bill up in Stillwater, and every time I go up there, I'm donned in Sooner gear. I don't care. And I was paying my light bill, and the lady who was taking my money, she said, "You're a Sooner fan?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Well, what do you think about the Woods brothers?" I said, "They don't compare to the Selmans." And she started crying.
Oh man, we're talking about like Deshaun and those guys from like the early aughts. Those two, man, God, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, Deshaun, Rashawn, and Donovan.
I was more perplexed. Like, you pay your electric bill in person?
But I was going
to. There we go.
Yeah, I need to. I got the reason I do in person is several years ago I got my identity stolen, so I don't put none of my credentials anymore online.
I honestly don't blame you.
Yeah, that's.
So I am too online to not be online anymore. So I kind of like I'm slightly envious, but I get it. I understand. So,
but I was going to allude to the little antitrust law that I brought up a little while ago, and then digress. But you know what when the lawyers sued the NCAA, what that was for was television rights, because up until 1981 in the 70s, and I'm going to use Oklahoma as a prime example, we was only on 2 times on TV if we wasn't playing a blue blood program in the early season, and that was
pretty much
Texas and Nebraska. So in 1981,
or Ohio State or something.
So in 1981, Oklahoma is playing. Yeah. So in 81, Oklahoma is playing USC, and we're getting our revenue and our television rights. Well, meantime, over on the eastern seaboard in North Carolina, Appalachian State is playing Citadel, and they're getting the same revenue as OU and USC, but their television market barely made it out of the state of North Carolina. And when the lawyers caught wind of that's when they took it to courts. And what the law, as a matter of fact, the lawyer Andy Coates, the law school down in Oklahoma is named after him now, by the way. But anyway, he said when he got his court orders and everything, he went to the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and he said what he discovered out of them television rights was basically an Italian mafia style racket. And so I got a video on that in my playlist.
You bring up an interesting piece of info there, because I watched the I don't know if Reese Davis and Pete Thamel did like a ESPN like college football podcast thing recently, because it's like a regular thing they do. And they're talking about like Clemson suing the ACC and everything, and what's the next step there. But one thing they were bringing up is like how potentially they're going to look like some of the conferences made down the road look at Northwestern, and the SEC might look at Vanderbilt, and not necessarily want to remove them, but why are they making the same amount cut than as Alabama is getting and all these other teams? Is unequal revenue sharing going to make a comeback? Because that's how the Big 12 was doing things for a long time. OU, Texas, and A&M back in the day were getting on the bigger pieces of the pie of the TV deals and whatnot. And, I would argue right now is like the reason you have so much harmony in the Big 10 and the SEC right now, because you do have those equal revenue shares. And if you try to go into that unequal revenue share, we're gonna have this problem, and it may not happen right away, but we're gonna go through this cycle all over again. And listen, every big conference, as big as these conferences are getting, they need bottom feeders. All due respect to Vanderbilt, Northwestern, and
Auburn.
Well, Auburn wins on occasion,
and Auburn
just
on occasion they win on occasion. They win on occasion.
And Okie
But it's just, I don't know. Like, I think every fan who keeps hearing about this, who's the casual fan, if they do keep up with this, it drives them a little bit insane. And they just want to know, okay, when is the point when things are going to stop? Where it feels like, okay, the dust is settled, we can just play ball. And whatever may be, wherever the ball lies, go. That's kind of where I'm getting at, because I'm reading stuff today about Florida State and Clemson, whether they're successful or not. And I'm reading stuff like, well, the Big Ten and the SEC may not even want them because it won't add much. It won't add much of a dent to the revenue anyway. I'm like, it's Florida State and Clemson. It's like, you're telling me that they could end up in the Big 12. It's like, what? If they end up in the Big 12, that would be the most hilarious sitcom Curb Your Enthusiasm ending for those programs ever. If that happens, it's like we're right back where we started. It's just a new name, same deal. But I don't know. Like, it's just I'm just ready for things to.
Well, guys, I think I'm gonna shift gears, and I'd like to get you two guys' opinion. Talk a little bit of recruiting here.
Oh boy,
I went, and one thing I'm learning from y'all, Ty, is going and checking out my facts, getting stats, blah, blah, blah. And I appreciate all of y'all who's taking me under your wing and kind of teaching me things. I really do appreciate that. So anyway, I went today and I looked at the 24/7 composite rankings for recruiting. Now, now guys, please, I understand we're not into April and it's going to get the wild west come the summertime. It's fixing to ramp up and heat up. But what I looked at is that OU nationally is ranked 6th in the SEC behind LSU.
Oh, in the SEC, okay.
I was doing SEC and so what I'm thinking, and to all the Brent Venable haters out there and who's doubting him, he is in position right now, if everything goes as planned, to have another maybe top 5 class coming into 2025. What you got?
Top 5 class, 4th in the SEC, something like that. Because that's just the way it is. There's I think like the two big fish that they're currently that you would potentially feel good about Oklahoma adding down the road is Jonah Williams, the 5-star linebacker / safety. He wants to play safety, and Brent is more than happy to accommodate that. I think like Texas is like saying, we want you to play linebacker, and he doesn't feel good. That's why Texas, I don't think, is even on his list. It just, Jonah's like he's I know some people are freaking out. He's taken a bunch of visits this summer. None of them are to OU, but he plans to go to OU during the season to a game. I would rather have you promise me you're coming to a game in the fall as opposed to the summer. I know a lot of people want to get everything done in the summer. There's a lot of players that do that, but if you're going to come to a game in the fall, okay, so that's fine. And Ty Haywood, the 5-star offensive tackle. There's a lot of offensive linemen that Oklahoma has their fingers in the pie for potentially. They need to hit home runs with at least two of those guys, in my opinion. Ty Haywood is definitely one of them. Fauci's another kid who everyone wants. And so, but there's a lot of great offensive line talent in North Texas this year. So those are kind of the two I'm kind of focused on. I know people are freaking out about, the quarterback situation, how he's transferring to Denton Geyer, which, Jackson Arl went to, but, I think it's a situation with families like his mom was going back and forth from fighting that DFW traffic, going up north on 35
right
to get to Oklahoma back and forth. So I know people are freaking out about that a little bit. I'm not there yet with Kevin Sperry, but it's always something to keep an eye on. You never know. But I mean, I know we had a decommitment from a wide receiver who his name escapes me at the moment.
Y'all's wide receiver room is really loaded.
Yeah, I'm not worried about wide receiver, but he wants to play basketball apparently more than anything. Initially he said, I'm going to go to a place for basketball and football. I'm like, brother, I wish you the best of luck trying to find a school that will accommodate that. If you could find a school that will try to let you do both, God bless you. It's not going to be a big time blue blood school or a big time elite school because they're going to make you choose. And I've had, the people, they let them do it. Baseball. Baseball's played in the springtime and the summertime. That's why they do it. That's why they can do it. Guys like Kyler Murray can do that. Right. So it's, you don't play basketball like Charlie Ward. You're pointing to 1993. Don't point to 1993 as your example. We live in different times. It's a different era. They had Game Boy Ones back then. All right. Go ahead.
Another Oklahoma recruit that I've been hearing buzz about is Torrey Blaylock, that 4-star running back out of
keep your ears open. Keep your ears open in about a week or so. I have a sneaking suspicion.
They said his commitment is March 29th.
Yeah, now, he has publicly stated that he will commit that day.
Now, there's a defensive end/edge, since I live not too far from where he's playing high school ball, because I did the same thing with Danny Okoye last year. I went and watched him 4 or 5 times. And this guy, because we're in the mix for him, and that's CJ Nixon from Oklahoma.
CJ is definitely a guy I would the one thing I can say about Brent is that he is not going to do what the previous administration did and ignore in-state talent. Now, look, CJ Nixon is not a guy you ignore, even the previous administration would. But there was kind of there was a sense before that, in-state recruiting took a little dip because there was more of a, I'm going to come. Oklahoma's not going to be the state where you build your program by itself. You could do that in Texas, California, Florida, Georgia. You could probably do that. Yeah. But you can't. Like someone who will remain nameless said, I could take all these kids from Oklahoma and make a mid-major powerhouse. It's like, well, if we wanted to be a mid-major, we'd drop out of the Big 12 and play MAC football, but we're not doing that. So, but you want to you want to be in good contact with like the Jenks and Tulsa unions of the world in state and whatnot. Like those are just two.
Yeah, you sure do.
If you only know 2 high schools in Oklahoma, it's Jenks and Tulsa union. Let's just but yeah, just in-state recruiting.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your top tier in-state kids to Ohio State on the reg or Alabama on the reg or whatever. It's like, it's not a great look. So I know people freaked out about the one defensive lineman last year who went to Oregon. Oh, it's over, Brandon's fit. Guys, calm down. Just calm down. It's going to be fine, people. So he's not really the number 1 player in state. It's okay. Yeah, we got Danny Aquino.
I'd like to get you guys.
You'll see.
I would like to get you guys' opinion on this wide receiver we picked up in the transfer portal from Purdue. I don't have his name with me, but
Deion Burks,
highlights, and he seems like he's all Deion Burks. That's it.
Yeah,
he looks like he's going to be a player.
Speed, and more speed, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know this is one of those things I worry about. A lot of people are ready to crown him something before he's done something. That's one of those. I'm very cautious about that. My excitement's still there. Because I know there was thoughts that Brendan Thompson was going to be he's a speed guy. He's going to come in now. He made a couple big plays last year. He made a couple. Wasn't consistent. And hopefully that'll change this year. But speed seems to be a priority for Oklahoma recruiting or transfer portal. But again, help Purdue's a Big Ten school. They're getting poached with their best player. Just as I mentioned earlier, you don't even have to be a mid-major. You just have to be a lower tier Power 5 team. But Deion Burks. If you can stretch the field, and you got a guy like Jackson Arnold, you got him, and you got Nick Anderson, and so like I've been telling people, if they figure out the O-line, and I know Bill Beanbo will get you a decent starting 5, regardless. Is he going to get you like a Joe Moore award-winning O-line this year? Probably not. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. But if you can give Jackson Arnold 4 seconds to make a pass, I think good things will happen. That's just me. So
yeah.
All right, 1-0 OU over Baylor.
Like
top of the
third. There's another player that I'd like to get you, especially you, Ty. He's in this class that's going to be playing this year. I don't know if he's going to be starting. Zion Reagans from Georgia.
Yeah, very talented. But like I said, y'all's wide receiver room, it's very, very talented. And I think whenever you look at it, I'm interested in the Luttrell offense because I went to UNT.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst football game I ever watched in my life was a Seth Luttrell coached game. Was the worst coached game, the worst discipline, the worst fundamentals I've ever seen was at the hands of Luttrell. I think they were on their course to breaking the amount of penalties that had ever been happening, and they weren't out of the second quarter. It was impressive how bad it was. I didn't go to UNT games, right?
Wow.
The offense was great, but there was a guy in that room who has since moved on to do big offensive things that was kind of the driving force. Now, I'm not saying Luttrell is a bad hire, but I'm curious, right? I'm very, very curious because I went to UNT. I watched UNT.
Yeah.
And I can promise you, nobody else watched UNT because they weren't good, right? Like they weren't. No.
I watched a handful of games when Seth had them. What was they had the
one good year, yeah.
The year where they beat Arkansas, where they had the trick play in the end zone or something like that.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, but wasn't Graham Harrell calling the offense then?
Yeah, I mean, Graham was the OC back then. So
yeah,
there was a fall off when he left.
Seth is I don't think anyone's making promises Seth is going to be the end all be all OC, but again, that's a whole wait and see thing. Yeah. I am more than certain that my fan base will be logical and rational. If he gets off to a slow start, there will be no boos. There'll be more than just they said, "Don't worry, Seth. It's only Temple. Boo! Fire this!" But yeah, so I'm looking forward to if we have a few false starts against Temple.
God.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't.
Ty, Seth, when I'm watching an OU game, I turn.
Go ahead.
When I'm watching an OU game, I got the sound down on the TV, and I got Sean up there because he has all the Debbie Downers in his live stream on that watch along.
People wonder why I'm on anxiety meds. It's those people. I blame all those people.
And listen, I don't think that's not to say that Luttrell.
Go ahead, Todd.
Well, that's not to say that Luttrell is a bad hire. It's just I'm very curious about it because I'm joking. Like part of me, I'm just like poking fun, having a good time. What I will say is with Luttrell, you were either going to watch like a game and you were like, man, UNT like gonna do something. And the problem is the next game you would watch them and you're like, this is not the same team. If he can iron it out, and in fairness to rhyming, Lemon says, but Ty, they were mean and green. In fairness to Seth Luttrell, he didn't have access to the best talent, right? At all. And UNT as a school does not necessarily invest into their football program at all.
Hey, they have a very nice billboard on I-35 when you're
Beautiful.
going back and forth.
It is. I'll give you that.
It's a very nice billboard.
Yeah.
He now has Jackson Arnold.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he's got Jackson Arnold. He's got a bunch of really talented running backs. I love y'all's wide receiver room. Like I actually did a video on it the other day, and I was just sitting there and I was like, the numbers for y'all's wide receiver room returning. If I just give you 4 guys, not including Farouk, who I really like, but you have Anthony, who on 27 receptions had 429 yards, Gibson, 14 receptions, 375 yards, averaged 26.8 per. Burks from Purdue was just shy of 700 yards. And then Anderson was averaging 21.1 per. You guys got a lot of talent in that wide receiver room.
And we all miss Drake already.
He was a baller, bro. Mm-hmm. I hated when people were like, oh, Drake Stoops isn't anything. I'm like, have y'all seen his routes? He's crafty.
No, Texas fans would get mad when I point out like the plays that were very impactful against them over the years. Dude, he didn't kill us. He only made like 1 or 2 plays. Yeah, but he made 1 or 2 plays every year against you that really mattered.
But also, like, isn't football a collection of plays that happen within 60 minutes? Like,
no, Ty. He didn't have a CeeDee Lamb game where he went for like 9 for 157 and 2 TDs. So he didn't kill them.
Yeah,
he didn't do anything. So
if someone goes 9 for 157 on you got a whole different issue, right? Like you got a whole other issue. That's
my favorite argument was like the 2020 game is like, dude, he only had like 55 yards. Dude, did you look at the box score? 60 yards was the leading receiver in that game. Like Radler, to his credit, spread the wealth. Yeah. Like there was no receiver that day that dominated you. It was all even keel. Stogner was the leading receiver in 2020.
Yeah,
Austin Stogner. And God bless him. He looked like his whole body needed a whole can of WD-40 running through his bloodstream just to keep going. My God, I feel bad for Austin Stogner. Ever since he had that staph infection, he was just never the same.
Really love his story though. I just love stories of like perseverance like that. Yeah. I just think it's one of those things where it is sad, but there's also this like feel good aspect where you have somebody who's just persevered and like, you know, there is something endearing about the will to persevere at that level. And still, I mean, the guy's playing Division I Power 5 college football at OU. Right, like that in and of itself is incredible.
Yeah, he was the only tight end we could trust.
I really was a fan of Stogner, man. Big fan of Stogner. And I think you probably both know, Mike, I'm sure you know, I loved Eric Gray for y'all. I
had to convince people Eric Gray was going to be good, like for his last year. I'm just
you
like,
and me were on the same train, brother.
I'm just like Eric Gray sucks. Like, dude, don't just. Eric Gray is an all-purpose nightmare when he gets going. Just feed him the rock.
He's
like,
so good.
Like in September, it's like Eric Gray is not. No, it's like just give it time. Eric's gonna be good, man. And then Eric Gray was like the best player on offense. Like,
oh God, Eric Gray was such a beast.
Like to be fair, like that Tennessee trio for the most part was solid. Like Wanye played a lot, and Key Lawrence was solid. So, but Eric Gray was
Lawrence. If he ever hit his ceiling, I mean, you'd be looking at a first round talent. That guy's athleticism is rare, freaky like a frog with a mustache.
Well, he's at Ole Miss for his final year, and we'll see. We'll actually get to play. We'll get to play against him. But
well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Tell Latrell. He's going up against Pete Golding. Run a wheel route.
You know what's funny about that? Before there was a brief period where Pete Golding was on our short list to get a new DC, and I'm sure you're like, why didn't you take him? I'm sure that's the one.
Well, it's funny. My old roommate played for Pete Golding at
UTSA,
and so I got an in-depth look, and it's funny because Saban really trusted him. And so I've kind of come to a conclusion, right? Because I did a lot of research on Saban. I got several books back here on Saban, like his starting coaching, his philosophy, his schematics. And Saban was a bit of a pioneer in terms of how the defensive backs were played. He wanted lighter, faster safeties all the way back in like the 80s, and everybody was like, no, you're crazy. That's actually why he got canned from Ohio State.
You need 230-pound safeties back there who could hit a guy.
Yeah, that's exactly why he ended up leaving that situation. But whenever I would talk to my roommate, he was like, Pete Golding is loved by the players. He's a hell of a recruiter, and that was true. Like, he could recruit. But my roommate would always tell me, he's like, Ty, I think what it is that he's ahead of his time in terms of his defense is formulated for where he thinks offenses are going, not necessarily where we currently are. And so I think Saban held on to him because he's like, okay, if we continue this offensive evolution, I love what you're doing, but the offenses are going to have to evolve because it's not like what you're doing is going to work now. So I think Saban was trying to mold his defense kind of with future-proofing it, and it just never came to fruition, right? It just never worked. Run that wheel route. I promise you, you're going to hit him over the head.
Shark wheel route.
And y'all got some running backs. My God.
When Tatum gets here in the summer, I hope he lives up to that.
Saban sounds like me with. Oh yeah. Ty with Nick Saban sounds like me with Barry Switzer. I got books of
He's
Switzer
fascinating
in my library.
I need Nick Saban to write another book, and have it titled I need the title to be "It's Never Okay to Lose a Game," because that is my all-time favorite Nick Saban pissed off quote, where he's at a press conference and they're talking about, well, you're in no matter what. So if you lose, he's like, what? He just like lost his mind, and I'm like, it's like he's gotten pissed before and dressed down the media, but my favorite. I use it as a soundbite at the radio station, and I abuse the hell of it. It's never okay to lose a game. God, I love that line. It's so great. Everyone loves. I'm not going to do it, so quit. I'm not going to, so quit asking. I know that's number one in everyone's hearts, but for me, it's never okay to lose a game. In any situation, it could be Monopoly, it could be the Super Bowl. It's never okay to lose a game. So that's my little side rant on my favorite. I love the guy. He's great. I hated his guts a couple times. I lost to him, and once in person. Like that Orange Bowl. Like if we could just start that first quarter over again, it would have been a hell of a game to the finish. If we could just start out, if we just start the first, because once the offense got going, it's like, okay, this is the game I expected. You can't go down 28-0. Riley.
One of my favorite Alabama moments comes from that game because Tua is one of those guys who's very easy to love if you're a fan of the team, right? Like
sure.
If he's your quarterback, you're just like, oh my God, it's Tua. You just love the guy to death. And it was in that game when Kyler and them started scoring, and Nick was over there cussing up a storm. I don't know if you remember. He looked at Tua and said something, and Tua hopped up, smiling ear to ear. Alabama was just running the football for a while. Two or three passes, and it was a long touchdown drive. That's the one where they just were like, boop, scored again, and then Tua runs off the field. Well, Saban had apparently told him, all right, quit, cut the head off the snake. Like, I'm done with this.
I was in the end zone. See, I was literally next to the OU band.
Yeah, so, he knew he didn't want to have the scoring contest with Kyler. He's like, hey, we have
the play I remember is Kyler dropping it in a bucket to Rambo.
Oh,
that was right in front of me, and I was like, okay, we're not winning this game, but that was awesome.
One of the most beautiful throws I've ever seen to this day.
Yeah, and that's like I hate going back watching losses, but I can go back and watch that play and still feel good about myself at the end of the day.
I just love that moment because Saban was like, we don't want to get into a scoring match with these guys.
And CeeDee Lamb hit people. That's what I remember. CeeDee Lamb hit people.
Destroyed Mac Wilson, and Mac Wilson was known for
Is that the
That's the linebacker he destroyed was Mac Wilson.
That was the game where CD trucked Mac Wilson, wasn't it?
Part of me thinks if
Ty, when you was talking about,
now we're a little out of sync, but that's okay. You go ahead.
What, Mike?
Ty, when you was talking about Auburn, it touched a memory. My one and only bowl game I ever got to attend and you guys probably wasn't even born then, is in 1972 when we played the Auburn Tigers at the old Tulane Stadium. What stood out about that game is we played the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback for Auburn, Pat Sullivan.
Okay, yeah.
But Joe Wiley, Oklahoma Sooner, he ran a 71-yard kickback. Well, fast forward to when we played Auburn again. I think what year was it in the Sugar Bowl? Was it 2016?
Yeah, that was Bob's last game. That was Bob's last game.
Barry Trammell put out in the Oklahoman the 72 Auburn OU game, which we destroyed Auburn 44-20. Jack Mildren just lit them up. But anyway,
there was been a rematch between OU and Nebraska, honestly.
Yeah. But Barry,
because Nebraska went,
he had some quotes.
They went and crushed Alabama, and it's like
stood out. But a quote that stood out in that article. One of the Bama players that was running down Joe Wiley on that touchdown score. The Auburn player went to the sideline and he said, "Man, I almost had him." And one of the big Auburn defensive line, he said, "Man, you couldn't have caught him with a damn motorcycle." So Ty, thank you for touching that memory.
Yeah, that I love going back and looking up old games and stuff, and it is I consider those things treasures. When you find clean audio or play-by-play audio from some of those older games out there, it's a treasure for video editors like me.
And you know what was special? You know what was special about them old early 70s games was on ABC. If you remember the commentators, it was Bud Wilkinson and Chris Schenkel.
Yeah, Bud was a color commentator.
If y'all remember Chris Schenkel, and Chris Schenkel eventually went to calling the PBA Boulders Tour, but their voice, I mean, that was a highlight of me when I got to watch. Now in 73, 74, and 75, you didn't get to see Oklahoma.
Yeah, a little. There was a transcript issue with the quarterback.
We were on probation.
Yeah. What do you mean he cheated on his transcript? I don't know what you're talking about.
Sean, do you realize?
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sean, I remember that like it was yesterday. Do you know how close OU was to getting the death penalty after Fairbanks left?
No, they weren't going to get they don't get the death penalty to OU. That was never. But the death penalty didn't even exist then. That rule was specifically made for SMU. Specifically made for SMU.
Yeah.
Because that rule was made in the 80s. So I'm not trying to be mean. It's like that. There was no death penalty in 1972.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with you, Sean. Well, I'm going to touch a little memory and then we'll get on to Demarco Murray. When I was a little bitty tot, I say 5 pre-K, my dad drove a truck, and when he would come in, he owned his own truck and he was cross country and he was gone a lot. I mean, so when he would finally come in on Saturdays, we would spend Saturdays, Daddy's first time back home, over at my grandma's and grandpa's in Oklahoma City. And I always remember this little old man with one arm that had orange slices that he would give me. You know who that was?
It wasn't a certain Benny Owen, was it? Was it Benny Owen?
It was Benjamin. It was Benjamin Gilbert Owen. Yes, sir. My grandpa.
There's only one famous one-armed person I can think of with OU.
My grandfather. Yeah, that was Benny Owen, and that was
pretty bad.
Passed away in 70. But I have, and how my grandfather
that man accidentally that man accidentally shot himself in that arm, walked back to get help, if I stub my toe, I'm on my back for 30 minutes. It's like, God, that hurts. He's just shot in the arm. I'll just walk back. I'm good.
Yeah, and he got his. Yeah, and what people don't realize, he gets his arm amputated. 3 days later, he's back to coaching.
Well, he's got to work. You got to get a paycheck.
So. I mean, that's insane, ain't it? Yeah.
Couldn't have been me.
But yeah, I like I said, I don't have. Yeah, but how my grandfather got to know Benny Owen is my grandfather and grandmother lived in Wynnewood back in the early 20s. And it was an all-day buggy ride from Wynnewood to Norman, Oklahoma. But on the away games, they would go to the telegraphers where the telegrapher was, because that was the only means of communication back in them days. So the telegrapher in Norman had a board set up that had the yard line, hash marks, blah, blah, blah. And that's how. And then on the home games, but my grandfather got to know Benny Owen on a personal basis, and they became the best friends over the years. And so that's my. But anyway, what do y'all think about Demarco Murray staying at OU?
I wasn't really too worried about it, and by the time I heard people felt they were worried about it, he had already apparently is about to sign a new deal with OU. So I'm like, I had nothing to worry about that. Like, how come you're not making video about it? It's like, there's nothing to make a video about it. It's like I could get on here and like, oh no, is DeMarco going to leave? And even if he did leave, it's like, all right, like I'm not going to blame the guy if like whatever OU did, but I'm glad he stayed because I don't have to play the game of like it's a bad look if he leaves his alma mater. Oh God, he's not going to be a running backs coach forever. Oh my God. So at some point he is going to leave and get a better gig unless he gets promoted within the staff. So I always hate that. Oh, it must be bad. If he's leaving his alma mater. It's like, is he supposed to be? Like, is he supposed to, like, as at some point he's going to want to make seven figures again in his life on a regular basis. He used to do it when he was kicking ass with the Cowboys. So at some point he wants to get back to that seven figures. And DeMarco's going to be a head coach one day. It wouldn't surprise me if he's in the coaching game for a while. I do think he might end up in the NFL though. But if he stayed in college, I could see a future in a decade or so when he might swing back potentially. I could envision that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's like the thing with DeMarco though, because everyone's like mad about like, we're running backs. It's like DeMarco is an old school type of coach. He coaches you. Yeah. Like, if you are sensitive to hard coaching, you do not want to play for DeMarco Murray. Like, our best running back last year for the first half of the season had to sit out of the game because he wanted to fist fight DeMarco on the practice field, allegedly. And
you're gonna lose that fight.
Yeah. Walker.
He's got various nicknames. One of them is Spray Tan. If you know why his nickname is Spray Tan, I'll just leave it alone. But DeMarco tells guys the truth. I'm sure if he's in a living room with someone, he's like, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, I want you to remember this moment. There are gonna be times of practices where you're gonna hate me, and you're gonna hate me a lot. But I will get you ready for the league. I'm sure that's his message every time. It's like, you're going to hate me, but you will be ready for the league if you're ready for the league. So that's why I'm excited about Gavin Sawchuk. It's like Gavin Sawchuk got going. It's like, I know people are saying, well, do we need to get rid of DeMarco? It's like, we just got Taylor Tatum, the number one running back in the country. He's a dual sport athlete. He's going to get here in the summer. And he's probably going to if that dude doesn't get early playing time, something's wrong. If that dude is as legit as I think he is, like Gavin Sawchuk's like your starter. Javonte Barnes really gets some, but Taylor Tatum will get some touches. He may not be the starter, but I promise you, if he lives up to the hype, I think he will get touches.
Such a well-rounded back.
God, people started comparing him to. Yeah. This is a big one. You start comparing him to Joe Mixon ability. I'm like, That's a big, like, that's not quite like I put Joe Mixon at Adrian Peterson level. Like, there's certain levels of running back. Like, AD is like greatest of all time for OU running backs, arguably. Like, I put Joe Mixon up there. If Joe Mixon didn't have one bad night on Campus Corner, like, he would have broken a ton. Like, we talk about Samaje Perine breaking records. I think Joe Mixon would have broke records. So, again, just if you give me the Joe Mixon level talent potentially, with the way Taylor Tatum is a dual sport athlete, just like this is like I'm hyping myself up again. It's not even the end of March. I got to remind myself the O-line is still a question mark, but I've been waiting for this moment for 20 years to go into the SEC, because I've been fighting the battle against the SEC, and it's like, you can't beat them, join them, but you join them so you can beat them. And it's like I've been hearing all my life how tough the schedule is, and all I'm hearing in the offseason is OU's schedule is tough, but Texas is very easy. I'm like, wait, how does that work? I was told it was a gauntlet. I'll never forget when the news broke that we're joining the SEC. I heard you just walk into Lexington, Kentucky, and get a win. I'm like, dude, a lot of people walk into Lexington and get a win. Like, how many SEC titles does Kentucky have? A lot of people walking in there and win.
Exactly.
You just walk into Arkansas and win. Maybe if you're Texas, you don't walk in and win. A lot of people walk into Arkansas and win. So it's like okay, if you want to say Tuscaloosa, Death Valley, and you know, between the hedges, and like, all right, it's like, don't start going down to you don't walk into Starksville, and it's like, come on, man. Just because you have a rabid fan base with like a gimmick or anything doesn't mean you can't walk in there and win. That's my only thing. It's like, everybody is not daunting. 4 to 5 schools are very daunting. That's what makes your conference great. Because like, I think the one thing that helps Oklahoma and Texas, I think you can speak to this. I don't think anyone was prepared for how insane that Texas crowd was for that Alabama game when they came to visit, when they played in Austin. I think that woke up some people. Because
Austin's a game day setting, but I actually don't think so, man. Like, if you go
that was a different atmosphere. No. I'm not saying I'm comparing them, but I'm saying it was different that day, because one of the things that Oklahoma and Texas have against them over the years is that, number one, they play each other in a neutral site. And that's an insane atmosphere. If you ever can get to one, go to an OU Texas game. Right. The one I went to this, but so they don't get to play their times. They don't get to play their biggest game at home every other year. They just don't get to, unless you have a big non-conference, or once in a while a TCU is good, or a Baylor is good, or an Oklahoma State is good. I think our fan base is plural, are going to show that, okay, there's certain elements on the outside, because it's like, okay, you need, like, when it comes to tailgating, when it comes to this,
y'all are SEC style teams, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, but what I'm saying is, like, people don't get to see the crowd because like, SEC crowds don't get up when they play like Troy. They don't get up for that game as much as like if Tennessee is in town, or if like Auburn is in town. Like, there are certain games where you go nuts over, and you really bring the passion 110%. And I think for our fan bases, like, we don't get those opportunities as often, and we're going to show out when Tennessee comes into town, when Alabama comes into town, and then the next year when I think the LSU game in 25 is going to be big, because they're going to want. I mean, granted, we're going to Death Valley first year. That we're going to want to get that. We're going to want that one really bad. I mean, we can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see what happens. But regardless, I do think like we're about to go. Our crowd is about to go Super Saiyan. That's what I'm saying. I do think it's going to happen. We will be ready.
I do have my tickets for Death Valley. Got them when they came down.
Make sure you purchase your LSU gear. Make sure you purchase and wear LSU gear. Those people don't play, man.
I'm going incognito.
That's wise.
I'm going.
That is the one play. Like, listen, I've heard horror stories. Like, a buddy of mine, when he was a kid, his dad took the family, Tennessee fans, to the first home game at Death Valley after Katrina. and Tennessee won that game. And the crowd was restless, and he was in fear for him and his family. And right before they went out to the parking lot, he stopped at the first merchandise stand and bought LSU gear for the entire family before they walked out to the parking lot. That's how nuts it was. Apparently, that's the legends I hear of Death Valley, because it was that they did not want to lose that game. And Tennessee walked in there and beat LSU after the first home game after Katrina. It was like, it was scary, man. People were pissed.
And in fairness, everywhere is not Death Valley, right? To your point about like everywhere is not Georgia, Bam. Everywhere in the SEC is not Death Valley, 100%.
I feel like I could walk into Bryant Denny and OU gear. Number one, our colors are very similar, so people will just mistake me for someone else.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I could walk I could walk certain places, but like Death Valley, unless I'm like the choose your own adventure 14 beers at Chili's type of mood, no, I'm not going to go into Death Valley in my gear.
Neyland can be the same way, though.
Oh, the stories I heard about Neyland for 15.
Yeah, that's a wild stadium too.
That is a wild stadium. That was the night Baker became Baker.
Talking about Rocky Top?
Yeah, and
Rocky.
That was one of the more satisfying wins in recent years. Oh, that was good.
To your point, Sean, I think you're 100% right. I think the average SEC fan was probably like, "Oh my God, Texas, OU, they have this type of fan base." But because I grew up in this area, I had family go to Alabama. That's where I was supposed to go to school, but I didn't want to have a bunch of debt, so I went to UNT instead. Right? Because I thought I was going to law school, and I didn't want to compound all this debt. I didn't end up going to law school, so now I'm just like, you idiot. But I wasn't shocked, because I have been banging the table since you guys got announced to the SEC. I'm like, no, this makes sense. Those are SEC teams. The way your fans are ravenous, the way y'all think, that's what I think people mean. And I think OU and Texas fans get annoyed when they hear SEC, because y'all are two peas in a pod. You know what I mean? It just
means more. It's like, we care too.
Exactly. I think Texas and OU fans get annoyed at it because we're like, yeah, we fit the bill too. What do you mean? And that's why whenever y'all were at it, I was like, guys,
when the Ag, like as much as I can hate on the Aggies and talk about what a cult they are, when they got added to y'all's club, I'm like, they're perfect match. The Aggies and the SEC are match made in heaven. It's gonna be perfect. But like, you don't think twice about Texas A&M being part of the SEC anymore. You don't think twice about it. Missouri, you're like, what are you doing here? Like, you're here? You're still here? Wow. I thought you guys wanted to get in the Big Ten. Really? All right. I mean,
Daddy and I.
You got to rock him in your end zone. You want to fill that in? No? Okay. I'm looking forward to whooping their asses this upcoming season.
Daddy and I made hell yeah. Daddy and I made a trip to that 77-0 debacle with A&M at Kyle Field when Francione was coaching. But here's the deal. Me and Daddy was going to the stadium. And Daddy steps on the grass, and out comes these cadets with bayonets. Get off our grass. Where Daddy was like, you little blah, blah, blah. You better get the hell out of my way.
Well,
oh God, it's a freaking cult down there.
Well, and the thing about that game in Norman, 77-0, if you ever go back and watch that game, it is the most casual 77-0 game you've ever watched. It wasn't like open pick six, a fumble recovery for no. It was just Jason White leads them down the field, touchdown, 3 and out. Jason White leads him down the field for a touchdown, 3 and out. Jason White leads him down. Like, it wasn't like there may have been a fumble, there may have been some turnovers here or there, but it wasn't like an insane and the floodgates have opened. No, it was just the most casual route you've ever seen, and it just sort of happened. It wasn't planned; it just happened.
Oh, if you wanted to see people. Oh, if you wanted to see a fan base lose their ever-loving mind, when me and Dad, we went to Boulder during the Switzer era when
Colorado back in their heyday.
Colorado. And OU beat Colorado 84-48 or 42 or something like that.
Oh, that was that early 80s video game numbers game. Oh God.
Yes.
That was insane.
Yeah. Me and Daddy literally had to fight. We had to fight our way out of Folsom Field. I mean, fight. Me and Daddy come back to Oklahoma.
Colorado fans back in the day are a little underrated because when Boz was at his peak, Boz would on occasion get a little uppity with the fans on the road, and he would give they shut out Colorado on the road. It was either 80, I think it was like 86, and he gave like a big middle finger to someone, and then like some poor cheerleader got hit with a frozen Coke bottle. It was just, and she got hurt, and it was just like, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm causing a riot." And then like, and he tells the story. He's like, and so the game is getting close to be over, and he's like, he's going to Coach Switzer. He just wants to, hey, celebrate, keep putting that goose egg up on the board, and then Switzer says to Boz, don't stand near me. They're going to throw some shit when he gets thrown. Don't stand next to me. They're going to throw it at me next.
They're going to throw it at me.
So Colorado fans back in the 80s had their Colorado took our spot. God. When the 90s happened, Colorado took our spot because Switzer left and we had our dark period. But it became the Big Eight became Nebraska and Colorado.
Oh yeah,
and then K-State emerged, which was weird for everybody. This is like, wait, K-State's good?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
No. Should they have dropped football? No, K-State was good in the 90s. It's like you knew shit was weird when K-State was like top 10 in the mid to late 90s on the reg. It's like, well, it's just a weird time for everybody. And yet the 90s is like one of my favorite decades of college football. It just is.
Ty, you can and Sean, y'all can disagree with me on this, but
I disagree.
First year into the okay, thank you, sir.
I like to be the first.
Our first year going into the SEC. I've kind of got the floor set at 8-4 and the ceiling set at 9-3 because I'm not.
Whoa, that's a low ceiling. No. 10 wins is the ceiling.
Set it that low.
10 is the ceiling. I think 10 is the ceiling.
Well,
I think I really do. I think they're going to go 9-3.
That
I generally think.
But still, the reason is I'm not setting myself up for a letdown. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't even think that's a letdown.
Sean, you've been watching. No, it's not. If you go 9-3 your first year in the SEC, I think that's a damn good year.
Yeah, I think we'll make the playoff. We'll go 9-3 with that schedule because I keep being told it's like one of the toughest schedules in the country, and I want to keep repeating that because everyone tells me
y'all do have a tough schedule.
So if I'm being told we're like now Florida, Jesus freaking God, that second half.
Oh my God,
they play 9 ranked teams.
Oh, forget the rank. Just look at the helmets. Like it's just that's like a video game schedule you make because you don't want to play. You make your own schedule on NCAA on the PlayStation. I don't want to play these garbage games. I'm gonna give every non-conference is a big game. Like, that's what it looks like. It's like, good God, who gave it's like Billy Napier, like. Even if you fire him, it's like, I want you to name me a Florida coach who wins 10 games with that schedule.
If they go bowling, they need to extend him.
Yeah, he should get an extension, a raise. And I'm the one who and I hate on bowl games in general because it's like, oh, you won a bowl game, congratulations. No, he should probably get a raise if he wins 6 games with that schedule. So
yeah, Jason said Napier gets a statue if he wins 9.
Absolutely. No, and I'm not
right next to Spurrier and Tebow.
Now, I've been catching a little bit of flack from my buddies outside of YouTube and everything, and this is what I tell them. You can't judge Jalil Farouk by that Arizona debacle when he fumbled twice, because
oh my God.
I think because did they forget what he did against Texas?
Sorry, we got a home run.
I mean, he made some key Farouk made some key catches in that Texas game.
Yeah, he kind of. I talk about Drake he made that big catch. Dylan throws across the field and he catches it, and he makes a guy miss and cuts up into Texas territory. Like, I was sitting in the stands watching, like I think once Drake, it was just all a blur to me. Once Drake got that pass where he just got to the 20, I'm like, okay, we're in the red zone now. I think what? Okay, let's see what happens. Please don't settle for a field goal. And like before I knew it, pass interference happened. I'm like, we're first and goal?
Please.
How did we get first and goal? But they just kicked the ball off 5 seconds ago. We're first and goal. But no, for real, Jalil Farouk, it's like he is the one guy who he will not be talked about in the preseason. He will be he's labeled as what have you done for me lately? That's what they're going to look at him as. And like, dude, Farouk was looked at as a guy he tried to be the guy. Could he be the guy who succeeds Marvin Mims? And just we didn't quite have that number one receiver last year. We had some solid pieces. Nick, that bum Nick Anderson only got 1 catch for 3 yards against Texas. But people take that joke seriously, by the way, when I say that. People actually don't get the joke when I do that. But it's like, you have Nick Anderson, and then you have Andrew Anthony, who tore his ACL, and I got an up close look at his face when he realized his knee was gone and he had to sit out the rest of the year, which was really sad. But Farouk is not going to get mentioned very often unless you're, a little bit. We probably win a few more games, or at least one more game than we lost, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. But Farouk had made some key plays, and so I'm not gonna like hate on the guy because we lost the Alamo Bowl, guys. It's over. It's like I have a different feeling for minor bowl games, and it's like they're basically glorified spring games. If you win it, you get a nice little trophy. If you don't, oh well. No one's gonna hold it against Oklahoma if they don't have another Alamo Bowl trophy in their case. So.
And Sean, what would we have got if we would have won the Alamo Bowl? I mean, a trophy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jackson Arnold sucks, but I don't know what game you watched. I saw a 5-star freshman who looked like a freshman at times, but made some plays that made me go, "Oh, Dylan can't make that throw." Dylan don't make that throw. All due respect to Dylan, I love Dylan Gabriel for what he did.
1-yard pass to Brendan Thompson.
I'm just like, oh, that's what he can do. Okay. I like you. Tommy likey. Tommy want wingies.
Yeah, when people start bad mouthing Farouk, this is what I use. When you're a wide receiver, I don't care if you're in the league, college, high school, whatever. It's not a matter if, it's a matter when you're gonna make a fumble, like Farouk did. Am I wrong for thinking that?
Well, no, but guys make mistakes all the time. But it's like I just don't. I don't put the weight of the world on that dude's shoulders. I just don't. Like he's not. If he was a 5-star who was supposed to be the greatest guy ever, I understand. Like. It's not like he has Arch Manning level expectations, you know what I mean? So Farouk's he's not going to be your number one receiver. More than likely, someone like Nick Anderson's going to be a 1st-round pick. Let's just be real. I think Nick Anderson has a chance to be a 1st-rounder when all's said and done. Like that dude's going to be legit if he keeps developing the way I think he can. So it's just you have to take everything in consideration. It was a weird year for everybody. We beat Texas, and also the expectations go through the roof. And it's like I just took it 1 week at a time. I was excited too, but I'm like, all right, let's go home, take a week off, and try to beat UCF. And then things got weird after that. So,
well, Ty, you look like you're about to fall asleep, brother.
No, I'm just enjoying the conversation.
You look like you're about to fall asleep. Oh, okay, absolutely. Okay.
No, that'd be me. I had to stand in the line of the
I'll tell
VA
you what.
Today. That was fun.
No,
give me my pills.
Like I told you and Sean in your DMs that this means a lot to me, because you guys are the ones who started me wanting to do this, and along with Jason at Hall of Fame Media and some others out there. And man, having y'all on here, just for an old man who just likes to talk the history of Oklahoma football, chopping it up with young guys, this is awesome.
I'm just a dude. Like I was like,
I mean, I'm. Oh, I know y'all. I wished back in the 70s when I was up and coming that we had internet podcasts, because man, I was just like y'all in my younger days. I mean, stats, players, it didn't matter if it was OU, whoever, man, and now that I'm damn near at 60 years old, some of that stuff has went whoop.
I'm 41, so I don't consider myself young.
This means the world to me. It really does.
I'm done being young. I'm just like I can't. No, I seriously have days where my lower back will cramp up on me, and I'm like, I need to lie down. I can't walk longer than so many. It's like I have so many. That's why I keep going to the VA doctor. It's like, can you fix my lower back, please? No, well, man, I'm just like,
I got some good news today.
What's that?
I got a letter in the mail. That my VA benefits are going to start taking effect.
That's awesome.
So
we like to hear.
The thing
it is.
I was an 11 Bravo.
I was not an 11 Bravo, but my one soapbox thing. And this is for both political parties, so don't let anyone say I'm picking sides here. I try to not be political, but when both political parties put on their flag pins and they say, thank you for your service. Like, if you really want to thank the troops for their service, the VA does not get funded enough. It's understaffed. Guys who need an appointment for something just to get a scan have to wait 3 months. It's just, I literally got told today, well, you could go to Daytona and get seen in May. And I'm like, I'm not going to drive to Daytona. So like, and this is not just for a meeting. This is for everybody who served. So I'm not playing favorites or whatever for me. Cause like, listen, I'm lucky. I'm not missing a leg. I'm not, missing a body part, or I'm not like, so I'm one of the lucky ones. I was in Afghanistan. So my one soapbox thing is like, we can make one less F-35 jet a year, and we can put more money into the VA and like really soup it up and like get more doctors, get more staff, improve, facilities, just whatever it takes. But we are capable of doing that, but we don't. So, defense contractors get a lot of money. It's great. Maybe once in a while, take 1 to 5% and like put it back into the guys who really make that thing go. Because you can have all the airplanes and have all the warships you want, but it don't work without the troops. So that's my soapbox for that. That's my soapbox deal for that.
You're gonna get me going because I'm a political science major, right? Minored in business law, and I've been lucky enough to do a bit of work, and I have some connections with the good people over at the Military Warriors Support Foundation, General Cisco, all of them. I have some good connections with those guys, and I get so mad. One, if I was to win the lottery tomorrow, one of the first things I would combat is like homelessness across the board. But you start obviously like veteran home. I couldn't agree more with you, Sean. And I'm not going to go into a tangent about this. I'll just say this. It's ridiculous to, put on the pin and act like, oh, I'm the party that cares so much about the veterans. Both parties. They both.
Everyone loves the troops when they're on camera. So
until it's time to really love the troops.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's a problem. John Stewart did that deal.
Yeah, I thought the exact. You and I are like he fought for the 9/11 supporters, man, and he went to war. So whatever you think of John Stewart, just he went to war for 9/11 responders. So to keep their benefits going, because they were going to expire, and like people were about to lose health coverage.
Did you ever see his bit about the trash piles that were burned outside the bases, and he was real. Yeah, I mean that. You want to talk about something that when I saw that, I genuinely had a moment of looking at YouTube, and I'm so grateful to do what I do. But I was like, I've been able to advocate in my life. I've been able to do this. I've been able to do it at a high level. Am I in the wrong field? Like someone needs to say something, and I don't think I'm great, but somebody's got to do something because this is not right. I'll leave it there because
it's like, and this is like my last thing I'll say on it, and 99% of the people who say thank you for your service to me mean well. But deep inside, I always cringe a little bit for various reasons, and it's not because I think the other person is.
I do too.
I think lower. It's just, it's personal for everybody, but I can guarantee you, if you anonymously poll veterans or even current service members, like how tired they're hearing that, and it's not that they don't want to be thanked or they don't appreciate it. It's just that there's like, yeah, but there's other areas that, if you really want to thank us, there are certain areas that could be better.
Well, here's the richest country in the world, but we can't take care of our veterans.
Like, what bugs me the most about it is like if I call up someplace like on the phone, like, hey, blah, 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 I'm trying to get something fixed. Oh, thank you for your service. Like, it's part of your script, and it's like it doesn't come off as genuine, and it's like, okay, whatever. It's like you didn't even know what I did. For all I know, did I deploy? Did I do anything? It's just like, I'm not saying none of those guys don't get thanked either, because everyone has a job to do. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, yeah, you're welcome. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox. I totally derailed that.
On my soapbox, what I was going through, because I suffer with PTSD. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a hint what I did as an 11 Bravo. People in the next zip code didn't have a chance with me, if that gives you any indication. Do you know what I mean, Sean?
Yeah, I know. I was at Bragg, and my first duty station was Fort Bragg, and I worked at Headquarters Company, U.S. Army Special Ops Command. That is a whole different world. That is an isolated universe.
Now,
than like 18th Airborne Corps or 82nd Airborne. It's like I lived in. I was like, wait, he's like, well, welcome, Private. Welcome to Club Med. And then I went to 7th Group, and then 4 years later, I went to 7th Group and actually deployed.
Now, another little hint is when I go to bed at night and I close my eyes, the crosshairs are still burned into my eyes when they close. Does that give you another hint? But anyway, so here I am at the VA, and this has been going on for the past 5 months. Like I said, I got a letter today saying I got my benefits. But when I went to see the counselor, when I was going through all this BS, here's what he let me do my spiel, what I did, blah, blah, blah. This was his reply to me. Well, you was in the military. Why didn't you change your MOS? And you wouldn't have had PTSD. Really? Are you freaking serious, dude?
Like, here's the thing. I changed my MOS.
Yeah, that's what he told me. He's
Grand Slam. Like I'm trying to say this without coming off, because I'm not insulting infantry, but for
go ahead, Sean.
But for a select number of guys,
go ahead.
Infantry is all they can do. It doesn't there's whether you take ASVAB or whatever test, it's like infantry for some guys. Infantry is all they can do. They don't have the options. They don't have the scores where they can go do an NMOS where they're at a higher level job potentially when they get out. It's like there's no guarantees for that. Like I wanted to do some off the wall. I wanted to go do languages at Presidio for a year and a half, but they said I couldn't go because I was partially colorblind, and that eliminated 200 MOSs. And you want to be a 71 Lima and do paperwork? And I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do that. And I did that for 4 years. And then that MOS was flooded. It had too many people. They said, well, you can either change your MOS or the Army will choose for you. Needs of the Army. Oh, that means 11 Bravo. I'll change it since I have a choice. So I went and became a 25 Bravo, info systems analyst, and learned how to learn computers and stuff. And then when I get to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I'm standing in formation with the reclass group, and the drill sergeant comes and says, I just want to tell you guys, you've made it a big achievement today. You are part of the largest reclassification class in the entire United States Army. I'm like, oh shit, that means promotion points for E5 are going to be max for the God knows how long, and I'm never making E5. Promotion points are we're going inside baseball with the Army here, but when promotion points are maxed out for E5, it's like you're not getting promoted. I can go to PLDC or they call it WLC now, but it was PLDC back then. You can go to that and get but you're not going to get promoted until the points come down. And because people ask you, why'd you get out? Yeah, it's people ask you, why'd you get out after 8 years? Because there was no room I wasn't moving up. I would have to reclassify again. And I'm like, I'm not going to go through another I wasn't going to get promoted. It was just not. Yeah. I would have to have worked as hard as someone getting E7 or E8 to be a first class or master sergeant just to get my regular sergeant stripes, my chevrons. It's like, no, I'm not. I love the Army, but I'm all due respect, I'm not going to bust my ass just to get E5. It's not worth it to me. I'll be part of the E4 mafia as long as you'll have me till you kick my ass out. But I said, you know what? I did my 8 years. I fulfilled seriously, my 8 years fulfilled. You have to have at least if you do 2 years Army, you're still on call for 6 years, and they need to recall people. So I did my 8, so they couldn't recall me back.
Right.
And I got my whatever benefits or whatever. I did my all this other stuff. So I didn't expect to go on this rant today, but it's just why did you get out? I was like, that's why. Because I went into a new MOS that was going to be maxed out for God knows how many years. And I wasn't going to sit around and wait for points to drop. So that's my rant about not getting promoted.
My ASVAB score, I could have done anything I wanted to, but I tell you exactly why I wanted to go 11 Bravo was that blue infantry cord on my class A's, and
y'all stick out
my combat boots.
Well, listen, y'all stick out like a sore thumb with some of that blue cord. You don't look like the rest of the guys in your class A uniform. You want to hear a funny story about not looking the same?
Yeah. Plus
I'm
back in
like,
day,
I'm 6'2". I'm 6'2" and a half. So when you go to a MACOM, a major command, and your first sergeant takes one good look at you, I'm like, you're tall. You're going to be on color guard. Color guard? What's that? Means every ceremony in the world, you're going to have to be a rifleman or hold a flag. Oh, that's going to be a pain in the ass. So a couple years later, on post, I get to stay on post for 4th of July while everyone else gets to go on a pass and leave. You get to go on the on post 4th of July celebration, and every unit is represented. And every unit has their flag, and every unit's flag is the same size except one, Mine. You know why? Because we're a Maycom. We're the only Maycom on Fort Bragg. So I show up with USASOC's flag, big old flag, and the Sergeant Major who's in charge walks over to me and says, Specialist, may I have a word with you? Yes, Sergeant Major. I notice your flag is bigger than everyone else's. Yes, Sergeant Major. It's not uniform. It should be the same size as everyone else. So I'm like, oh, I was unaware. So this is the flag that they gave me, Sergeant Major. You need to go talk to your commander in charge. And it's like, and I'm like, you want me to go talk to the CG of USASOC? Who's a 3-star general who's worried about shit going over in Afghanistan and fighting the Taliban. I was like, yeah, I'll go ask him. Sure. So I get him. I get in the car and go back, and I'm just like, he wants me to. Do you guys have a flag the same size as theirs? And they explained to me, we're a Maycom. That's how big our flag is. And it's like, if he has a problem with it, then here's my number. He can call me. Like, and I talked to. This is like multiple. There are so many damn officers in that building. So I'm like, every time I'm walking back and forth between buildings, I just might as well have this up all day. I gotta have this up all day. And so I drive back for the other rehearsal. I go see the Sergeant Major. He's like, Sergeant Major, I was informed by the CG staff, and the sergeant like that is our flag size. And he said, if there was a problem with it, here's the phone number. You may call. He's like, so he gives me a dressing down. I'm at parade rest, and he's like, he's wondering if I even tried, because he's an 18th Airborne Corps Sergeant Major who's used to things happening his way. So he gets on his cell phone. He's talking. And then finally he's not talking. And he's like, uh-huh. 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 Thank you, sir. All right, Specialist, you can go fall in with everyone else with your giant ass flag. So and he was pissed. He hated that my fucking flag, excuse my language, he hated that my flag was like 3 times the size as everyone else's. It drove him insane. They do things differently over there. They're special ops, special. Like, I'm just a paper pusher. I fill out forms. I file. I'm just like, why do I got to put up this crap? I mean, there are worse things in the Army, but it was just like it was one of those things you had to be there to see a Sergeant Major who was like who got everything he wanted, everything his way, and then like reality sunk over the phone. You can only imagine what was being told. Like I had a G3 Sergeant Major who was like the size of a bear. He was bigger than me. I love that man because he did not give a fuck. Like, just like I was in a Humvee with him one time. Like, there was a driver and I was sitting in the back and he was in the front seat, and he wasn't wearing his Kevlar helmet because apparently 18th Airborne Corps says if you're driving around and post a Humvee, you gotta have a Kevlar helmet on. So 18th Airborne Corps MP stops us. He's like, because he just isn't wearing it. It's like, excuse me there, Sergeant Major Buren. Just question there. You're not wearing your Kevlar helmet. It's like, yeah, well, it's according to, you need to be wearing a Kevlar helmet. We unfortunately will have to. And then he looks at him and goes, what if I don't fucking feel like it? It's like, you didn't tell USASOC people what to do. They live in their own universe. So, anyway, I totally derailed Army talk, and Ty is like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gone.
Jason said, let's talk college football. So JFA, Jackson freaking Arnold. So I tell you what.
I could talk Army stories all day long. I apologize because it just like I what's the silly stuff. But anyway, Jackson Arnold's going to win 3 Heismans this year and be the greatest quarterback ever. So.
Well, here's what I've been saying about Jackson. He's got that bowl game and this off season to study himself and see what he did wrong in that bowl game, and
I'm not a Marine. I'm not so Rhyming Lemon. I'm not a Marine. That's a Marine treat there. Crayons. So
yeah. So but I think Jackson is going to come out and he's really, I think Jackson is going to shock the country. Because, after that bowl game, everybody was like, oh, my God, we should have kept Dylan Gabriel.
Here's the thing. I don't think the grown-ups who cover college football think that way. Like, the Andy Staples, the Kirk Herbstreits of the world, they know who Jackson Arnold is, so I'm not worried about that. Like, if you cover college football for a living and you get up in front of a camera and say, well, how are you going to replace Dylan Gabriel? I just know you don't do your homework. Now, and you can see, now it's one thing to say, hey, Jackson Arnold, second year.
Exactly.
How much has he developed? If you could talk intelligently about him and say, we got to see the next level. If you could talk about things he's done, what little he's done. Hey, he came in that BYU game in the second half and he kept things rolling. So he didn't win the game, but exactly. If you could talk intelligently about him, fine. But if you're just lazy ass, because you could tell it's like, how you replace Dylan Gabriel? It's like, okay, I know you just like looked up a depth chart and see how many returning starters we have, and that's what you're going by. I know those people. You see them all the time.
Well, listen, and Sean and Ty, y'all seen it in that BYU game. What was that decision that Jackson Arnold made, that audible?
How many true freshmen are allowed to make an audible
kind of call?
Yeah, you want to talk about Farouk? You want to talk about Farouk? How he threw a bullet to him on a third down to basically end the game, ice the game. Just like I was like, okay, you can play in some tough spots.
I'm not worried. I'm honestly, I'm not worried about JFA or Jackson Arnold, as I'll say, but I'm about the only thing I'm concerned with, Sean, is, like I said at the first of the podcast, is I'm concerned a little, but we got Bill Bedenbaugh and about the offensive line with this young, inexperienced group going into the SEC. That's the only thing, because we got Stutz, we got our key players on defense coming.
Here's the thing, and this is just going to be the reality of this football team going into September. Whoever the starting O-line is, or whoever the pieces that we find, whether speaking of North Texas, the transfer, Fabuccio, why I'm gonna butcher his name every time, but you know who I'm talking about. Whoever they put in there, it's gonna take 4 or 5 games for them to gel. That's just the reality of it all. That's why I'm glad you're playing. This is why you should be happy you're playing Temple and Tulane and Houston, because it's not the same Tulane program that years past that had a loaded team that could win a Cotton Bowl or a great Cotton Bowl finish, or a Houston program who's still rebuilding. They need to be relatively ready by Tennessee. And relatively ready. Like the first really big test is going to be on the road at Auburn, because here's the thing: Auburn may on paper not be a really good Auburn team that people are expecting, but that crowd's going to be really good. That crowd's going to be cursed. That stadium, it don't matter how good or bad an Auburn team is. Like if you get people to come into that stadium, like I've seen good Alabama teams walk in that place, come out with losses that Georgia teams. So just because Auburn on paper, like if you have a young offensive line and they have false starts, and we talked about penalties before. So I expect to walk at Auburn to get a W. It's not going to be easy, but I think they'll walk in and get a W. Now, if they walk in and win 42-17, I'll be like, okay, they won like they're supposed to.
Whoa. Yeah.
If they do that. Mm-hmm. But it's like the Tennessee game is going to be big, because you got Nico, you got those are the 2 big young quarterbacks everyone are looking forward to in the SEC, who are like kind of new, the big 5 stars. So that'll be a fun battle to preview when we get to that. But yeah, the O-line in general, it's just we got to see what happens. If the O-line is solid, I think they can win 9-10 games. If it's not, we're talking 7 or 8 potentially, maybe worse. But I think that the defense is going to carry this team in the first half of the season. If because this is the most loaded defense talent-wise we've had in a long
very long time. Very long time.
We had, and when a couple of years ago, we legitimately wasted in 2021. We wasted the best defensive line starting group we've had in a while. When you had Perry on, we had Jalen Redmond. When you had Isaiah Thomas, when you had Benito, those guys made wasted a wasted opportunity. Just a wasted opportunity. That
very wasted. Big Cahoney Kelly's asked, how's the DBs? I tell you what, we got Billy Bowman coming back. We got Peyton Bowen. Our DBs, we're solid back there.
That's for the first time in my, I don't want to say my life, but the first time in a while, we're loaded at safety, and I got to question whether, should we play Robert Spears Jennings? Should we play Billy Bowman's playing, but does Peyton Bowen play a different spot? We got safeties, and Reggie Powers is a guy I'm really excited about down the road. I want to see how he develops. And you got Woody coming back. Gentry is nursing a shoulder, so he won't participate in spring. But if Gentry Williams stays healthy, when Gentry Williams is healthy, because he was battling injuries all last year, so he would always start a game but leave a game. But when Gentry's healthy, he's good. He's so good. And you got Josiah Wagner, who I'm excited about. And I haven't even brought up Kendall Dolby. So and again, we are the most talented on defense, secondary at linebacker, and the D line has got a lot of potential. But I got to see PJ Adebawore take the next step, because he played. He had a lot of snaps last year, and I hate to use this word because it's cursed with OU, but PJ was close last year on a lot of plays. He was close. I hate to say that word, but he was close.
Well, Sean, go look at that last play, the very last play when Quinn Ewers threw that pass in.
PJ was the one about to hit him.
PJ was on him like bees on honey. I mean that. Hey, what's up, T-Bim? But I tell you what, like I told you at the first of the show, Ty, before you came in, I haven't been this excited about a defensive group, because I'm a defensive guy for OU. I mean, I like offense, but what I want to see is smash mouth, knock you on the freaking ground, jar your head off defense. And I'm excited.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is
the 2024 class, go ahead, Ty.
Oh, one thing I'll say is I think y'all did the best move possible in getting rid of Ted Roof. That was nonsensical to me always. When I saw y'all play against West Virginia, a quarterback, granted, who couldn't throw north and south, and y'all's defense was lined up on a 4th and 1, and your DBs are lined off 10 yards off, I wanted to go down there and slap everybody. I'm like, this is kindergarten level football. This is not difficult. There's a reason why you've been fired from everywhere.
My thing with Ted Roof is he was when he got hired, it's okay. And I heard the reasons why he's hired. Okay, he's I literally, he was Brent's personal hand puppet.
That's why. Yeah, you're right. There was a reason. It's because Brent had to focus on becoming a CEO.
He's he's my hand puppet. He'll run the defense I want, but he's still got to make the calls at the end of the day. Then what was different this year about OU more than anything? Brent said took a little bit more personal interest and you could tell. But now he's got Zach Alley, who he's very high on. So however you feel about Zach Alley, we'll see. Yeah, I like him too. So, and plus you need a younger, you need a younger guy in there who can go out and recruit. And like, I'm sorry, like Ted Roof does not inspire a lot of confidence on the road recruiting high level linebackers. You just don't.
Well, I remember when Brent was putting together the staff, and they got to Ted Roof, and I was like, oh, he brought in Bates. That's a great hire. I was like,
yeah.
He's retaining Demarco. That's amazing. And then it got to defensive coordinator, and I was like, Ted Roof. I looked at his resume, and I was like, wait,
video about it.
Yeah, I did a reaction video. Like people, OU fans got mad at me. Brent knows what he's doing. It's like I love Brent. I'm a true believer, but it's like Todd Bates, you got me. Keeping DeMarco and Bill Beanbo, you got me. It's okay. But it's like,
but Ted Roof,
and it's like, okay, all right. And
I got so mad.
It didn't take long for my dad to turn on Ted Roof in phone calls.
If you go back and look at Auburn, that was not Auburn's stellar defense that won them the national championship that year. That was Cam Newton.
You want to know something crazy?
I mean,
Nick Fairley had something to do with it, to be fair.
But you want to know something crazy? That's the worst defense since 2000 to win a national championship.
Oh yeah, that was that natty was single-handedly won by one person. Like, and but to be fair, like I remember like preseason covering that year 2010, and like I have video proof of this in my really ugly old videos, which will never see the light of day again. But if I wanted to bring it up, I have video evidence of me saying I like Auburn as a sleeper team to win the national championship. So I liked Auburn, damn it, because they returned a bunch of starters, and there's this guy.
Hey, we were just getting good.
And it's like there's this guy named Cam Newton. Watch out for him. I think he's gonna be really good. I have video evidence of me saying this. So
God, he lives in my nightmares.
Yeah, like hell, I'm mad because allegedly Landry Jones ran him off in recruiting. Like we all know what really happened. Like money was exchanged, which nobody bats an eye at today. But like the final three was Auburn, Mississippi State, and OU. And it's like, I like Landry Jones, but I would have thrown him into a lava pit for 1 year of Cam Newton.
Yeah,
because Cam Newton at OU in 2010 with Kenny Stills and Ryan Broyles.
Well, I'd have been happy with that because then he wouldn't have been at Auburn. So,
well, like that Alabama team in 2010. Like the one thing I always tell people, it's like it will shock you. Because that Alabama team lost 3 games. It was the South Carolina game, which I knew that was going to be a tough one, regardless. The LSU game, which was a coin flip, and then the comeback happened. Like, but I always go tell people, if you get yourself a copy of the 2010 Alabama depth chart, you're going to look at the names alone and say, how did they lose a game?
A game.
But the reason was all those names of the second and third level were younger players. There were a lot of freshmen on the team that went on to win back-to-back in 11 and 12 and were really good in 13. But it's like, it is like stupid insane when you look at that 2010 depth chart because you had a little bit left over from 09 and you had the future for that run, that early run y'all made. And it's just like, they lost? And I'm still bitter to this day that like, we came in runner up for Julio Jones, man.
Yeah.
In 2008, I'm telling you, man, if that 08 OU team had Julio Jones, we win the national championship.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that's what we're missing. I mean, as good as that offense was, all due respect to like Joaquin Iglesias and Manny Johnson and a young Ryan Broyles, it's like
exactly
Julio's different.
Like
Julio was on a different level.
If you have Julio and Jermaine Gresham with that O-line, we ain't losing to Florida.
Oh my God.
We ain't losing to Florida. Like Bradford with Julio and Jermaine to throw into the red zone and a healthy DeMarco in that game. Like hell, a healthy DeMarco.
That'd have been an and one mixtape. You know that, right? Like, that'd have been football's version. It'd have been like Alito here a few years ago. They had a core. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago now. Texas high school just south of me. They had a core of guys, and you had to go watch them because it was like you were watching an And One mixtape when they had JoJo Earl, Jace McClellan. What they were doing to defenses is something like it was incredible to watch. It looked like you had the street ball tapes from the early 2000s of like basketball, where they're in Rutgers Park in New York, just like balling, and Kobe might pull up, and it was wild what they were doing. But you're right, man. If y'all get Julio with DeMarco, with Broyles, that's an And One mixtape.
I was sitting in a restaurant in the Florida Keys watching the ESPN ticker. It said Julio Jones announces commitment to Alabama. I'm like, of course he did. I was like, come on, man. You got Sam Bradford to throw you the ball. He's going to win the Heisman, man. Like, nobody knew that yet, but it's like, come on. Like, but I know why he went to Bama. He made a good choice at the end of the day, but it was like, like everyone's got that one recruit one recruit. God, it's to me it's Julio Jones, and the other big one is Eric Dickerson. I hold a personal grudge against Eric Dickerson's grandmother to this day
me too.
I hold a personal grudge.
I do too.
Against Eric Dickerson's grandmother, because Eric Dickerson would have because Eric Dickerson wanted to go OU, but grandmother did not want him to leave the state of Texas, and he would have Billy Sims goes out the door, and then here comes Eric Dickerson.
Wow. Sean, could you have imagined him in that wishbone? Oh my God. That would have been.
Yeah, we don't have a rough patch in the early 80s with Eric Dickerson on the roster. We just don't.
No, we don't.
So those are my two, but that I can think of. But anyway.
Well, listen, guys, we're going on 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 14 minutes, and I know y'all probably got to get out and do stuff.
Well, the good news is Oklahoma is up 8-1 on Baylor in the 7th inning, so I think we're good there for that. So
we're good there.
Yeah.
But thank you both for coming in and,
of course,
let me do my first live podcast. Chop it up with me, because I mean, you two were, like I said at the beginning, you two were the first followers that I followed on podcasting, and having you on here. Jason was supposed to be on tonight, but he's going through some things that I don't want to mention. I appreciate y'all coming.
Hey, and also I found out that Ty doesn't hate me and vice versa, because you just never know with YouTubers, man. There's always secret beefs with people, but we've discovered is we're cool.
No, man, I'm one of those people that I just want to talk football, and if someone's just willing to talk football with me, we're probably going to be best friends.
Yeah, I love talking ball.
So. We're probably going to get along just great. I don't have. I don't have a personal beef with anybody. I'm kidding with that stuff.
So I'm just it's you never know. Ty could come on here and Ty was Oni. Ty, where'd you go, Ty? And all of a sudden the brother's I hate that stupid videos. He thinks he's funny and he's not. If you don't have haters, you're not doing it.
My three. Thank you, Jason. I sure appreciate that, brother. Like I said, you two and Trap House Booming and Jason, y'all was my first four that I started liking and following, and it got me to thinking, hey, I'm a disabled vet with PTSD. Instead of sitting around not doing nothing besides fishing and hunting, tell the people the story about the history of Oklahoma, and that's my niche is the history.
Well, like I said, I could go on and on about that stuff forever. So
me too. But I'm starting to get, judging by my YouTube algorithm, it seems like people likes the newer stuff. So I'm probably going to hit the new stuff.
There you go.
Along with my my evergreen. So guys, why don't you tell me tell the folks where they can find you, and we'll jump out of here.
You can find me at you can find me at my username down there. I'm always wearing this hat because I love this hat. I do wash it on occasion. So I am one. It's like beautiful way to wash a hat. Dishwasher, man, top drawer dishwasher. It works every single time, every time. But yeah, I don't have a set schedule in the off season. I just make videos whenever I can. But please support my channel. This is the time where us college football YouTubers are poor and we need support. So always support financially your college football YouTubers in the off season so they can do things in the regular season, the stuff that you tend to like. It's like February, March tend to be the worst months. April gets better with spring games, but thankfully I have a good softball team that's been like the greatest softball program ever, and so that holds me over through May and June a little bit, and then I'm looking forward to my first SEC media days as a member, as an official member. Yes, get to be part of the fracas. But you can find me at Onikuno on YouTube stuff, and yes, my username is a stupid online handle I've had since I was in high school because I'm a weeb. I'm a pathetic 41-year-old weeb. What can I say?
Well, for me, you can find me at Around the Table Sports. I just happen to have a microphone and talk into it about college football. That's about it. You can find me on Twitter. I don't know why you would follow me on Twitter. I don't post on Twitter.
I got a microphone too, damn it.
Yeah, I know. I'm the worst Twitter person in the world. I retweet things. I don't hardly tweet at all. Like I said, I just like talking football.
All right. And a good time to end it because you just beat Baylor.
I'm cool. And I'm Mike the Legend. You can find me at Twitter at OkieCowboy1969, or you can find me right here at Twitter at Sooner Legends Podcast. I'm at 195 subscribers. I'm trying to hit 200 by the end of the weekend. So if you could, please jump in there and subscribe because I got some historical stuff with some new stuff. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It has been wonderful, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Of course.
Sounds good.
And God bless you, brothers. And take care, guys. Salute to you.
Thank you for having me a part of it, man.
Not a problem, Ty. Onikuno, Sean, have a good night, brother.
You too.